Right, what a fantastic week of weather we've had. I'm not being sarcastic, we really needed some rain. So we had rain every day, pretty much this week. Up until today, where the sun's out and it's feeling hot. It's been warm all week, sort of between 20 and 22 degrees. It's 25 degrees already today. So we're going to be talking bananas. So we'll start off with the classic. We're looking at about roughly around 12 different types of banana I'm growing here. This is not a wow, look at these. This is the different options that I've tried with varying results. I'll remind you I'm on the east coast of Suffolk on sandy soil. We get very little rainfall here in the summer, so we do struggle for the big leafy plants, but nevertheless we'll carry on. So if you're new to tropical style gardening, this is probably one of the plants that got you into it, or one of the first plants you'll come across. This is the Musa basjoo, the Japanese fibre banana. Definitely, in my opinion, the hardiest. You can do absolutely nothing with these and they'll come back every year from the roots, or you can choose to protect. Plenty of videos online how to do that. Like all bananas or anything fast growing leafy plants, they'll need a lot of water and a lot of feed because they're greedy, hungry. The more you feed, the more water, the better growth you'll get. So let's put it in perspective. We're coming up to the end of July, so we've had a good, really sort of 3 months of growing weather other than the water. So in the 3 months we've had 3 leaves, so you could say a leaf a month. Not particularly outstanding, but this last week this new leaf here has come up in 1 week, so in the right conditions you can be looking at a leaf a week. I haven't got time to individually water plants and feed them. I'm not trying to grow the biggest, fastest. I just let things take their natural course, as it were. Anyway, so that's the Musa basjoo. You could say hardy to about -5 before you'll lose a trunk. At least -8 to -10 in the ground root wise if mulched. This particular one I've had for a few years. I have got one out the front which is flowering. So obviously they're monocarpic, so when they flower they die, but they normally have a few offshoots by then. The clump will live on. Right, so that is your first on the list if you're starting out fresh, or even if you're a seasoned tropical garden grower, you'll have these probably. A close second in hardiness, so we're going to sort of do it in a hardiness order. And this is not far off the Musa basjoo at all in regards of hardiness, but it's a very different looking banana. We're going to look at the Musa cycamensis. This particular one is a variation Bengal tiger. I don't know how well that's going to come out on video, but a lot darker green on the leaves, slightly smaller leaves, but the pattern is outstanding. So you do get the standard cycamensis, which won't be quite so patterned. The Bengal tiger is my personal favourite. Obviously you've got the ever red, which is probably a sport off the Bengal tiger, just a very heavily patterned or red coloration to it, which they've micro propagated to keep the genetics. So in my opinion that's exactly the same plant, just a very coloured version, so that you're looking at the same sort of hardiness, I'd imagine. Again, you might be looking about -2 to 3 before you lose the pseudo stem, but a good -6 root hardiness, this particular plant, which is probably standing close to 4 foot now, died right down to the ground. I didn't protect it over winter. That is right next to a Musa basjoo for colour contrast. Very different green, and obviously with the patination on it, very nice banana. Also very hardy, very easy to look after over winterizing, no problem. Strictly speaking, not a banana, but it will come under the big general banana name. This is Musella lasiacarpa, or lotus banana, golden lotus banana. Again, sort of a slightly different shaped leaf, quite a bit more sword-like, if you like, sort of elongated, not quite as wide as the other two we've just looked at, but again, still a nice plant. These are more of a dwarf variety. I suppose you could be looking sort of 5 or 6 foot eventual height before they flower. Again, with most bananas, they will pup. We've got several pups around this particular specimen. This has been in the ground for 3 winters. Survived no problem whatsoever, just a little bit of fleece protection. Because it's a dwarf, it's quite easy to look after. Obviously, like all bananas, they're not going to be hardy in a frost. They will lose their leaves. So when we talk about banana hardiness, we're talking about the actual pseudostem or roots rather than the foliage. They're not evergreen. They will die as soon as you get that first couple of hard frosts. But because this is a dwarf, very easy to look after. Just wrap a bit of fleece around the base, and the actual sort of pseudostem of it is literally only about a foot tall or so. Very easy. Nice little variation from the big paddle leaves of the Musa basjoo. Yeah, just for a good sort of mid-height plant. Golden lotus banana, very good option. Right, so I'd say they're the big 3 which are going to be the hardiest for you. There are a couple of others you could try. And I'm not going to go for every species. You've got the Valentina, or the pink banana, which is another sort of dwarf, which are quite hardy. I don't grow that one. It's not different enough to warrant a place in a very limited space in my garden. But we do have a Musa cheesemanii, which I'm not going to say these are hardy, but they can take light frosts. So if you've got it in the ground and it's established, you could protect this one and get it through winter. But it depends on where you are. That could be a bit hit and miss. I haven't tried it myself. I've only had this banana from this year, from a very sort of small seed-grown specimen. So cheesemanii, make your own jokes there. My missus finds it hilarious. I believe they're commonly called Thai blacks. They are from Thailand, or I could be getting muddled up, but nevertheless they are a good species for growing in a cooler summer, along with the next species we'll look at. But yeah, they seem to again sort of have a very different leaf shape, very elongated. The pseudostem eventually goes black, and as we can see, the sort of petiole and vein is sort of a dark colour on that, very different to a Musa basjoo in shape and sort of colour, sort of slightly more of a mid-green than the zingy colour of the Musa basjoo. So yeah, that's worth growing if you want something a little bit different. Again, these can take a little bit of frost, but if you're in a sort of frost-prone area where you're going to get prolonged frosts, may not be the best option for you. Right, so going back to where we were, because I'm sort of trying to do it in hardiness rather than just random backs and forwards between different banana plants. So this is another one I'm growing. This is the Burmese blue, and I think this is the one which is actually sort of Highland, Thailand, called Burmese blue because the fruits, the bananas themselves are actually blue stroke purple. But the plant itself is again sort of a similar green range as the Musa basjoo, but the trunk and the petioles are sort of a bright red. So again, a little bit of interest there. I wouldn't go and spend a lot of money on these sort of bananas, but if you come across one at a good price, you know, why not have something a little bit different? Right, so that sort of concludes the hardier ones that you maybe could get away with. The Burmese blue is probably, yes, that'll need a lot of protection if you had it in the ground. I've put this in the ground, but I will dig it up at the end of the season before the first frost, and that'll just go in my hothouse, or if you've got a sort of frost-free greenhouse, that'll tick away. As long as it don't get frosted, that'll come through no problem. Right, so let's have a look at some of the more tender ones. So yeah, let's go this way. Right, so let's go over the bridge and we will. So I've got a lot of sort of tropicals crammed into this new centre bed, but I've got a few bananas in here. I won't say they're doing particularly well, but we'll have a look at them anyway. So we've got Musa acuminata. So these are quite nice. They've got a nice, very strong red, almost like, looks like a velvety pattern to them. Quite nice. Back of the leaf is kind of plain green, but the coloration is on the top of the leaf. These are not hardy. These will be the same as your Tropicanas or your Dwarf Cavendish, that sort of thing. Good summer bedding. You can normally buy them pretty cheap. You can let them die, or you can dig them up and bring them in. They will need to be sort of kept alive year round rather than sort of just kept frost free, and you know, cut the leaves off with a lot of sort of half hardy ones you'll get away with. But this particular one I'd suggest that wants to be growing year round. Right, so let's come around the other side. It's another one which I found very easy to overwinter, but yet a really stunning plant. Maybe one of my favourite Musas, the Siam Ruby. So this is one, they've done a lot of these in B&M last year. I think probably a lot of you bought them if you're into your tropicals. They're doing them in two sizes. I think they're about $6.50 and $12.50, whatever. But I found these, you know, again, just bring them in a bathroom or kitchen or somewhere a little bit of humidity, and just keep them ticking over. They'll keep a few leaves, and then harden them off and get them outside as soon as you can. But really good colour and pattern on the leaves. Very different. Some are sort of more or less solid red leaves, you know, underside and top. Some will have a lot more green on them, like that, and I've got some which are literally sort of half and half leaves. Really pretty colours. Yeah, really like that one. We'll have a look at another specimen I've got in the hothouse towards the end of the video. So should have really been counting as I'm going, but like I say, I've got about 12 different types of banana to look at, so we'll continue. So again, not a true banana, but comes under that sort of banana family, the Hinebas. I do grow a Hineba here. This is Ensete Hineba. Also we look at a Ensete Morellii as well. Again, this one hasn't done particularly well for me. Too dry here. It's starting to pick up now. We've had a bit of rain this week, so that leaf is now sort of coming out. Never really grown these to giant proportions, but I haven't really put the effort in to do that. If I wanted to really focus on one plant to get it big, that would be a good option, because these can get massive. But again, that's one you'll have to dig up either dry store or over winter. Again, plenty of videos online on how to do that. So that is the Ensete Heniba. Let's have a look at the Ensete Morellii, because this is going to be quite a common one, which you'll see again in your B&M, or a lot of garden centres will do these. And again, this is not going to be giant specimen whatsoever. This is actually in a pot. I didn't really have any space to put a lot of these bananas in the ground, so a lot of them will just be in pots, and if they get too big for a space, I will move them somewhere else. But as it is, this is filling a nice gap here. So this is the Ensete Morellii, standard red. Obviously you can get the Ensete Montbaliardi, which is possibly a slightly darker, more purple, and more of a thinner leaf form like the Heniba, but still, I won't say hard to get hold of it. I had an opportunity to buy one. I weren't really that fussed. I may get one day in the future, but I'm in no rush to get one. But yeah, that's definitely on the list. Yeah, again, very easy. Plenty of water, plenty of feed. This is always going to be a case of do what I say, not what I do, because I really don't water this enough. I don't feed it enough, but it still gives the overall effect. You know, you get that nice coloration, nice sort of green fading into the edge of the leaf into the red. And when they get big, they do go sort of pretty much full red. The back of the leaves are fully red. Really nice banana. I've found them easy to look after over winter. I know a lot of people do tend to lose them. But again, watch credible videos online. There's a lot of videos out there, and some are questionable. I've even done an overwinter video on these before, and it's probably not the best, to be honest, because I cut it down too small. But let's haze over that. Let's have a little break from the bananas. So maybe, you know, you want something that's a bit more fuller than a banana. I mean, obviously a banana plant will pop and you'll get a big clump eventually, but if you want something instant and similar sort of leaf size or shape, why not look at some of the bigger cannas? And I'm going to show you the two here which I'm growing, which I think are a good substitute for bananas. So we've obviously got the Canna Musa here, or banana canna, and the leaves on these are not far off, nowhere near like Musa basjoo, but they're not far off some of the smaller dwarf species of banana. And again, these are going to be fully hardy. They'll die down, come back, and yeah, they do get really big leaves, and they keep going all growing season. If you want something with a bit more colour, I mean, these Musa, Canna Musa, they do have colour. They've sort of got a darker stem. The leaf is mainly green, but there is a bit of a darker tinge around the edges. Nice colour, I think that's really nice. But if you want something true red, then you've got this. This is the Indica purpurea, or purple bird of paradise, or maybe called commonly Russian red. Again, if you look at the leaves on some of these, they're not far off the Canna Musa size. Just a bit more colour to them, and look really nice with the sun shining through. And obviously you're more likely to get the flowers on the Russian reds, which are now coming to flower, compared to the banana cannas, which very rarely flower in the UK because they need a really long growing season. What you'll find is though that the Russian reds will, once they start flowering, that's sort of more or less their eventual height, whereas the Canna Musa they'll just keep going until they flower, which again is quite rare. I've never had one flower for me anyway. Right, so that's a little interlude from the bananas. Let's go back to the bananas. Right, let's have a look at some of the more rarer ones. This is not a fantastic specimen, but it is one that I really like. This is the Musa Florida that is in a pot, so again I can move that about where I want. Chucked out a couple of really good variegated leaves this year, and then the last few have not been so good, but again I don't know how well you'll see that, but there is some white variegation on that, and I can see the new roller that's coming up, that's looking like it might have a bit more variegation. But yeah, that's more of a, I wouldn't say collector's banana, but more of a, definitely more of an expensive one, a bit harder one to get hold of, but they are available, but they are sort of coming down in price as well, and if you want something a bit different, that's definitely an option for you. Right, so let's have a look in the hothouse. The last couple we're going to look at. So we looked at the cyan rubies in the garden. This is going to be a slightly bigger specimen because it's obviously in a warmer environment, but let's see if we can get a good look at some of these leaves. So that's a really nice red with a block of green on. This one is as well, nice block of green flecks. I really like these. This next leaf's actually looking like it could be more green with just a bit red at the bottom. Right, so last two bananas we're going to look at. This one, again, first glance you'll see these and they do look a lot like Dwarf Cavendish. Sometimes get this deep red colouring, or an acuminata, which do have the red pattern as well, but this, as you may notice, has got a lot more red to it. Again, similar, this leaf almost looks similar to the cyan ruby, but these are very different plants. This is a Zebrina, so it is a variation of acuminata, but this is the commonly called blood banana, because it's obviously a lot more red to it, and the difference is that the back of the leaf is going to be pretty much fully red, whereas as we looked at the acuminata, the back of the leaf was green. So that's a good way to distinguish if you're not sure. Yeah, there's the tag on that, Zebrina. Yeah, so these will again get to a good medium size, sort of 2 or 3 meters, no problem. And yeah, just a lot more red, and I quite like this sort of more matte finish to the leaves rather than a gloss. Yeah, quite a nice one. I will say this was fairly inexpensive. I think I bought this for $9.99, and yeah, again, none of these ones are going to be hardy whatsoever, but they've got a nice look to them. So this is my most recent purchase, banana wise. I literally only got this yesterday. I have repotted it, so it's in a very small pot. I think you might guess what it is when you see the pink variegation. So even on the back we can see a little bit of variegation, but if you look at the front, and again, this is not going to be to everyone's taste. This is my personal preference. When you think of variegation, I'm not sort of overwhelmed with pink, but I think these do look quite pretty. This has got a new leaf now opening and hardening, so that is, you can see the variegation on the lighter green there, which will fade down to quite a dark green, but that really does help to pop the pink variegation on it. Yeah, quite like that one. So I did pay a bit of money for this one, but I think for its rarity, I've never really seen one in person. Obviously you see them online, and the prices vary online quite a bit. I mean, the cheapest I've seen is probably around the £50 mark for a very small plant. I actually paid £50 for this good sized plant, which I'm going to say is well over 3 foot. And this was actually in a garden centre, Taverham Garden Centre in Norwich, or on the outskirts of Norwich in Taverham. And yeah, to my surprise, in the banana section outside they had these. And for 50 quid I thought, bit of an impulse buy, but I'll have it anyway. So that is the Musa Nono pink variegated. Yeah, quite like that. As a little bonus, we'll finish up on another banana relative, and so just to keep you updated if you have been following, in early spring I bought some seeds. This is actually, again, forget the actual Latin name, this is commonly called a water banana. It's not actually a banana, but it looks very similar. It is starting to grow. Just opened up this little leaf here. This banana grows in water. It's not a terrestrial land banana as such. It does need to be in water all the time, and it's a fully tropical species, so can be a bit finicky growing in a cooler climate. This is definitely one for the greenhouse and indoor growing, along with really this. I mean, this can go outside for the summer, the no-no, but I would probably have this, well, definitely have this indoors over winter. I'm going to keep it in the hothouse here over the summer, just to get a bit of growth on it. I find if the more pseudostem you've got on it, the more chance you've got of getting through winter without any major issues. Right, so that is a look at the bananas I'm growing. Like I say, I'm not one for buying plants for the sake of it. If there's a plant I really like, I will buy it, but I'm not going to go hunt down every different variation, every species of banana just for the sake of it. I'm not that way inclined. You know, I might be that way inclined with other plants, maybe sort of the colocaceae. I do like to get as many different types as possible, and obviously palm trees and that sort of thing. But bananas, I mean, really you only need, for the average tropical style gardener in the UK, the Musa basjoo and the Musa specimens are the two easy cheap ones to get hold of, plus, you know, your Ensete morellii, cheap and cheerful, almost use it as a bedding plant. Right, by all means let me know how your bananas have been doing. I'm sure they're doing a lot better than mine. I do expect a bit of a growth spurt over the next couple of weeks after all the rain we've had, but again, it's relative. If you get high rainfall and sort of decent temperatures, they do grow really quick. I mean, you're talking over a leaf a week in the summer, but yeah, not so much for me. Right, thanks for watching. We will catch you on the next one.